Work is certainly, as we know, turning itself inside out right now. And I think the way I think about curiosity is through questioning. And for any work or labor to create value, I think what is happening right now is we are having to recheck the questions we ask that put us on a path to create value. And so curiosity as a kind of leadership practice is penultimate to determine what is even worth doing at all. I've seen an interesting conversation emerging that has flipped the great resignation to this other conversation about the great simplification. The human beings need hybridity. We need not one or the other. We need multiple models of ways of working, of connecting, of creating meaning, and finding ways to adopt purpose both individually and in teams. We talk about in the book what I call cultural interregnum, this idea that we're moving from kind of one era to the next era on a variety of social systems, that there's these kind of legacy narratives that work needs to happen this way, and that is the kind of inherited normative behavior. And I think this kind of era of interregnum, when we move from one model to another, in particular with work, we're going to see probably dozens and dozens of models to iteratively figure out what works and what maybe the new upended emerging narrative might be for work. And it's going to take some time. I think we're still healing. I'm not sure we have fully embraced the full kind of aftershock of how the pandemic will be a catalyst to reorganize the kind of operating system of culture. And with that in mind as a background, curiosity and questioning by leaders in particular, whether that's government, whether that's corporate, whether that's the nonprofits and cultural institutions across the country or globally, we're going to need leaders who are full of humility, who are willing to ask questions, and maybe courageous questions that felt untouchable in the past. But because of that existential kind of lightning bolt we all went through, when you face an existential kind of threat, things that you thought and assumed were fixed and no longer are will require adaptive business models, adaptive growth models, and leaders will need to be able to use curiosity themselves as leaders and visionaries, but also to indoctrinate and kind of build like apps, cultures of curiosity to encourage their teams to be willing to chart into the unknown. It's true that questioning everything cannot come at the expense of a paralysis for action. But I think that there's probably no time in an organization that embracing curiosity would leave a net negative legacy. I think a lot of people are saying it's not so much getting back to normal, it's questioning what we want to have learned from this and to design what a new normal may look like. And so any organization that is not asking radical, rooted, fundamental questions, they may have a time period in which they are doing okay, but it will come back to haunt them if they don't embrace such deep questions sooner rather than later. I have great inspiration for the sea and avalanche of social entrepreneurs that I think are emerging and will emerge as a kind of repairist movement of this moment. I mean, I think there's this kind of fascinating era of re-healing and reordering that is already unfolding, and I see increasing in its kind of velocity. It turns out that actually, if you want to make $1 billion, you might need to ask social questions like, what is the future of water? And, how are we going to feed 9 billion people? Actually, those more core kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for me, these are the big terrains of opportunity. And there's not necessarily a single company, but I think there's a persona of the radically curious challengers that are questioning those basics.